Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. So, welcome to my last year-end video. I've done a lot of reflecting back on my reading in 2023. I've done my favorite reads of the year. I've done my least favorite reads. I have talked about every single book I've read, honorable mentions. I did my top 5 romance, my worst 5, and we're gonna do the same like that with thrillers. Like I said with my romance ones, I did my favorite top 5 romances and I talked about my least favorite romances, and we're gonna do that with thrillers. So I'm gonna talk about the 5 that I loved and 5 I didn't love, because balance is key. So let's get into it because I have a lot of thoughts. So first up, starting with the good, we're going to start off with How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This was easily my favorite thriller horror of the year. I loved it. This is basically about a character. She learns that her parents just suddenly died, and her and her younger brother, who she doesn't have the best relationship with, have to go back home to South Carolina to sell their house. And they learn that, you know, maybe their parents' house is haunted by a particular puppet because their mom was a puppeteer, and it gets freaking bananas. If you've read Grady Hendrix, he is horror with a lot of satire. In this book in particular, it was I loved it because it touched on a lot of subjects that I was very close to, like with the whole kind of brother-sister dynamic that wasn't the best. I loved it. It had me crying one page and then scared the next, because this was really extremely scary. Gracious, was it scary, but I really enjoyed it. It's not my favorite Grady Hendrix book. That will always be my best friend's exorcism, but I really, really love this one. Now, moving on to one that I did not like whatsoever. My least favorite thriller of the year, hands down, has got to be The Engagement Party by Darby Kane. It should not be a surprise to me because I tried reading a different Darby Kane book earlier in the year and DNF'd it because I was like, this is boring, and probably should have done that with this one. The Engagement Party is exactly what it says. It's about all these friends, that college friends that haven't talked in years because of some big event, get together in this island, somebody ends up dead, and things keep happening. And it was pitched as kind of like a 90s I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I loved and adored because Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, like, come on. But it wasn't that. All the characters were horrible. You didn't care about any of them. You were like, whatever happens is gonna happen. And I did not like this book whatsoever. Moving on to another really scary book is My Darling Girl by Jennifer McMahon. This has controversial reviews. I personally loved it. It's my favorite of hers that I've read. This is about a girl that does not have the best relationship with her mom. You get to see snippets of it growing up, and it's not good. So she hasn't talked to her mom in a long time. She is married, she has 2 kids, and then she learns that her mom is terminally ill and doesn't have very long to live at all. And so her mom wants to come stay with her, and she's like, you know what, maybe we can repair our relationship. Maybe this will be a good thing. And so the mom moves in, and then quickly things start getting really creepy and weird, and she thinks, maybe my mom is possessed by a demon, and it gets freaking cuckoo bananas. If this is not made into a movie, I don't know why, because it would be a great horror film. Would I watch it? I don't know, but I really loved it. Again, it was very resonant with the whole mother-daughter relationship, and it really dissects it, and I really thought it was awesome. I loved it personally. It was a great, spooky, very thrilling book that I loved. I did not like whatsoever, that I was really disappointed in, was The Writing Retreat by Julie Kantz. I think that's right. I read this in the beginning of the year. It sounded amazing. It was basically about this woman that wanted to be an author, and she wanted to be a horror author, and she got a chance to go to one of her favorite like horror authors retreat where she hosts for like up and coming writers. And basically when you're there, you have to write a novel when you're there because you're like cut off from everything. Like you can't, cell phones, computers, all that kind of stuff. Like you're kind of virtually cut off from the world, and you have to write a book while you're there for like a month. And so whoever writes the best book will get a deal. And so the character's like, great. And then things start going really haywire. And this book could have been so much more, but it wasn't. It kept going crazy plot twist after crazy plot twist, and it didn't make much sense to me. And I felt like it just could have been more. I just wanted to love it so much. I put it on my most anticipated reads of the year. I was very excited for it, but it just wasn't it for me whatsoever. On to a book that I really enjoyed and quite frankly was surprised by, Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison. I thought this was a fun book. This is a book that, don't take it too seriously. Rachel Harrison is horror, but I don't really classify her as horror because I don't get scared while reading it. I'd say it's like kind of horror satirical, kind of like Grady Hendrix. I think if you like his books, you'll like hers. Her name Vesper. Vesper grew up in a very religious community, and so the age of 18, Vesper decides to get out. She's like, I'm done, and when you leave, if you know those communities, you leave, you're exonerated or excommunicated, whatever you want to say. Nobody can talk to you. You're kind of just cut all ties from that. And so now it's been 4 years, and she suddenly gets an invitation to a wedding wedding of her cousin. And she's like, what the heck? And then she knows that her cousin is marrying her ex-boyfriend. And she's like, what the heck? And so Vesper's like, you know what? No, I'm going to go visit because I want to see what's up. And then nobody ever gets invited back. And so she goes back, and then they're at dinner, you know, having a big rehearsal dinner, and they're like, oh, hail Satan. And I'm like, oh, this isn't just a religious like kind of cult. It's a devil worshiping cult. And it, like, you could see the plot coming from a mile away. Rest assured on that. But it was insane. And I had a great time with it. It was fun. It was weird. It was crazy. Vesper's mom was like a cult horror actress, and her whole house was full of like really scary props. I think the lamp in Vesper's room was like of human skin. And I'm like, what? But it was just cuckoo bananas in a book. And I had a great time with it. And what I did not have a good time with, that I was very disappointed again, is A Twisted Love Story by Samantha Downing. I have read one of her books, loved it. My Lovely Wife, one of my favorite thrillers of all time. This one was not, first of all, not a thriller. It was not. It was basically about a toxic couple just being toxic together, and that was it. Like, they had this big secret from years ago that everyone, and I mean everyone could see from a mile away. And basically the book, they start out not together, and then they decide to get together. A detective who just decides to research them more, which is just, I don't know, but it's basically about, it's literally the title, A Twisted Love Story. It's just about a love story of two toxic people that should not be together. There's no thrillingness about it. There's no really big mystery. The characters are straight up horrible. You're like, you deserve each other because you're both horrible, and it just was not good. No. The I love and adore that I've talked about a lot is The Last One by Will Dean. The less you know about this book, the better. It's about a woman and her boyfriend that decide to go on a cruise because that's what you do sometimes. And everything's great. They have a great first day out at sea. They go to sleep at night. And the woman wakes up and she is completely alone on the cruise ship. And she's like, what the hell? And that's all I can tell you. It gets crazy. If you think you'll guess the plot, you won't. It is just insane. Again, another cuckoo bananas book that is just full of plot twists that you don't expect, but man, it was thrilling. Again, it would make a great movie or show that I personally would watch, but I loved it, and it's an underrated one that I don't think a lot of people have read, but people need to because it was amazing. Another one that I just did not love, sadly, but wanted to, was Good Girl, Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. Again, another author that I've read a book before that I absolutely adore, Daisy Darker. This one was not thrilling. You don't even remember much about it. Number one, it had a multitude of characters that got very confusing and I couldn't keep up with them. Number two, the plot was not very memorable. There's no thrilling. I'd say it's more of a mystery than a thriller, but even the mystery is kind of blah. All I can remember, it's about one character that works at like a nursing home, and the nursing home lady goes missing, and then there's a murder that happens, and that's all I remember, literally. It just wasn't very memorable in my mind at all, which is such a bummer because Alice Feeney is a great writer in my opinion, but this one just did not hit for me. And my last favorite thriller that I read this year was The September House by Carissa Orlando. Again, another cuckoo bananas book. I guess that was just a trend for me in 2023. Who knew? But this is all about a character named Margaret, I believe. And at the beginning of the book, her and her husband have wanted to own a house for forever, but they've just never found the right one. Then they find this amazing Victorian that has like kind of a spire, there's a certain word for it, and they're just like, this is the house of our dreams, and it's at a really good price. It's a dream too good to be true, and it is. They buy the house and everything's so hunky-dory at first, and then they learn, whoa, this house is straight up haunted, and not just a little haunted, like full-blown, lots of ghost, interactive ghost, physical ghost, violent ghost haunted. So, you know, it's been years now since they've moved in. Margaret has grown accustomed to this house. She has learned the different ghosts. They have a housekeeper there that has been with the house ever since it was built, and the housekeeper is a good ghost. She helps out and stuff. And then we have another ghost that will actually bite you if you get too close to it. You have another, you can't go in the basement because that's the most evilest ghost. And there's like a whole slew of them. And then every September is when the crap hits the fan because that's when like the big evil happens. The walls will bleed blood. All of the ghosts will moan at night, that like so loud the ghost will just go haywire, you know. And to you this sounds freaking terrifying. To me that sounds like, no, Margaret, this is not her first rodeo. She's been in this house for a while. She's used to it. She's like, this is my damn house and I'm not moving because I wanted this house. Her husband was like, no, like I'm not living with this. Who's to blame him? And he leaves. But oh, did he really leave? Wink. And so basically it's all about learning about this house and the secrets of it, and it's a fun ride. Is it too weird and too kind of kooky? Yes, it is, but I think that's the appeal of it, in my opinion. I really liked it. And then my last least favorite one, I know, is The Only Survivors by, I think it's by Megan Miranda. So I read this book because it was set in Outer Banks, and I live close to Outer Banks to where I'm very familiar with it. I've been to it a lot. It's in North Carolina. I live in Virginia. So I was like, oh, cool, a book where I actually know the places and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, it was so boring. It's basically about a group of college kids or college graduates that some sort of big traumatic thing happened to them on their last, maybe it was high school, their last high school year, and every year they come back to go to this house in Outer Banks to kind of not commiserate maybe, but just kind of dwell on things that happened in the past, that big traumatic event. And basically this one year, one of them is found dead. And you know, it sounds kind of interesting, but it wasn't. Like literally nothing happens. And then you get the big reveal at the end and you're like, oh, that's it makes no sense. It was so boring. It was just, no. So there you have my top 5 and my least 5 favorite thrillers. Sorry, the sun just came out and it is blasting, of the year. Like I said, I've read some really great ones, but there's some that were just really there were just some ones that were really forgettable. And so, you know, life is all about balance. Reading's about balance. Watching is about balance. You get what I'm saying. I would love to know some of your favorite thrillers that you read this year, last year I should say, and some of your least favorite. Please leave them in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.